Hi everyone, Tony Tonkin here from a place of considerable unrest around the world and if not the country. So I'd just like to welcome you all, and for those people that are watching us on Twitch for the first time, welcome as well. And I hope that particular stream is working, as this is the first time I've tried it. So welcome to Things That Matter. So we've entered an interesting time worldwide because we now have Donald Trump um, evicted or evicting or in the process of being evicted, or on January the 20th, definitely being evicted from the White House, which is fantastic because it's about to get some, it's nice to get some semblance of reasonableness back into the American society, and a bit of stability in the world in general will be rather pleasing at this particular time. So this is an important time for everybody to make sure that things are moving in the right direction at last. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there who are thinking, well, what has this got to do with Australia, and do we really care? Well, we care because there are 70 million people, or over that now, 74 million people, whatever it is, who in America want to get rid of Trump, and there's 70 million people who think that he's doing a good job. And I guess my sympathies go out to those who would want to support this man in any capacity whatsoever. And I don't understand, and I've mentioned this in some other feeds before, I can't comprehend why it is that people would want to support a man who clearly and plainly is failing the American people. And as a result, given they're the most powerful country in the world, is also failing the world. There is probably, apart from perhaps Putin and Erdogan and a few others in the world that are dictators, they probably think Trump's the ant's pants because he does tend to side with them, and they don't seem to have many conflicts with him when they should. But at the end of the day, most of the people in the world, most leaders, would be glad to see him go, because the reality is we need some stability back in society, and we need to certainly have some stability in the world. And with Trump there, it would never happen. It just would never happen. You can't have an egomaniac, a narcissist running a country. Believe me, there are enough egomaniacs and narcissists who are in politics as it is. You don't need one at the head of the most powerful country on earth. That is not really helpful. So today's episode, though, is to talk about my friend Allan Jones. Now, I know that every now and again I like having a shot at Sky News, and I'd been actually waiting for this particular day because it is now, after the US election, that all those people on Sky News, Allan Jones and his cohorts, who predicted, Allan Jones in particular, predicted that Trump was going to win with a landslide. Now, I think, and to be fair, there are probably a lot of Democrats who felt the same. I thought at one point that he may as well. So I still stand corrected because he didn't win by a landslide, even though he has won by a significant popular margin. But I was waiting for the moment where I could evaluate the response that some of these people have to Biden's victory. And lo and behold, not to be disappointed, Allan Jones gave us his response. And I'm going to play that because this man is absolutely crazy, along with everybody else that tends to support or has supported Trump. I don't understand their logic. I don't understand their reasoning. But I do want to analyse what it is that Allan Jones specifically believes about Trump's victory, about Biden's victory, that is significant. And in this clip I'm about to show you, all he can do is reiterate and sort of mention all the claims that he's made in the past about Biden's son and about the corruption that sits within the Democratic Party and about the election being stolen, a whole host of stuff. And one thing that really does interest me is that the Republicans have been claiming for the last 4 years that the Democrats were feeling somewhat disappointed that Hillary lost the election. I think there has been some mention that they believed that the Democrats thought the election was stolen from them. So when we're now seeing this vitriol that's coming from Trump supporters, we're experiencing the same things that they criticised the Democrats for doing. They're now doing in spades. They're challenging. Trump's challenging at every opportunity the validity of the election, and they're making up crap as they go along, and it has no justification whatsoever. I was really interested in the fact that Fox News were taking a press conference with McAvaney, and they cut it off because they themselves realised that what was being spoken was absolute garbage and was untrue. And so they decided, okay, we don't want to even watch this crap. Now, when Fox News start to say, we don't even want to be a party to this anymore, you have to kind of think, well, maybe it's over, buddy. Maybe it's about time you decided, Mr. Trump, to let it go, step out of the background and do what you need to do outside of politics, because you are a loser. Let's face it. And as a result of being a loser, you need to be able to put your tail between your legs and piss off. And Trump, I mean, there was an interesting statement Trump made that winning was hard, but losing was even worse, and that he would never ever accept having lost an election. And he set this notion around challenging the election back in 2015 when he was running as a presidential candidate. And so it was inevitable, that none of us should be surprised that this man was going to choose to challenge the validity of an election, and that he was going to challenge the rights of individuals for their vote. And everybody in the United States should be upset about this, because at the end of the day, it's a con. And he's at it again. And he's been conning that country for, the last 5 or 6 years, I guess. And he's still doing it. And everybody should be appalled. And I can't understand why they're not. I just don't get it. But, of course, there are some people on the left of politics, and some people that kind of sit in the middle, I guess. But there are many commentators who are saying, look, enough's enough. You've had the gong, let's go. But let's have a look at specifically what my mate Allan Jones had to say about all of this, and we'll kind of discuss it as we go along.
Yes, well, good evening. Now, look, I'm not being melodramatic when I say to you tonight, I am broadcasting in what are almost...
Let's just start with that. Allan Jones says he's not being melodramatic. Well, he is, because there's nothing that Allan Jones does that is short of melodramatic. I mean, the man is a melodramatic expert, and in this case, he is so. When you start to regurgitate the crap of the past in order to justify what's happening in the present, you kind of got to wonder whether or not, and you're not prepared to move on. You got to wonder whether or not this man's got it all together. Like he criticised Joe Biden being slow and stupid. Allan Jones is just stupid, to be quite honest. So let's hear what else he has to say.
Circumstances. Your response to what I had to say last night about Trump, Biden and the voting system in America has provoked an overwhelming response. In fact, to this hour, in fewer than 12 hours, there have been almost 1 million views of this material on YouTube. My face.
God, this talk about narcissist. This guy loves himself to the extent whereby the responses that he's getting on YouTube are so resounding that he has to pat himself on the back. Look how great I am. I'm no longer working for a radio station. I'm working for Fox News, and I can still get a coverage. That means that I'm still relevant and I'm still important. And because of all of that, all these millions of people are listening and watching what I have to say. I mean, interesting. I've got to be fair. No one watches my show, so fair enough. I guess he has a point. But basically, who am I compared to someone as great and as fantastic as Allan Jones is? But the point is, though, that he is busily thinking of himself as extremely important and extremely relevant. So when he starts talking about things that aren't all that relevant anymore, kind of makes you wonder.
Facebook page, Allan Jones Australia, will direct you to YouTube. However, there are powerful interests who, while they can't prevent me from saying these things, want a worldwide audience to not hear them. As you know, at least in the latter stages of the campaign, things that the American voter should have known and heard were censored by powerful interests in the media. As we now know, the polls were wrong, the headlines were wrong. Was this designed to collapse the Trump vote? Now that we know that almost half of America rejected these unrelenting, ruthless and dishonest attacks on Trump, are we entering the next phase? Nothing negative about Biden to be said or reported. It appears on published figures that 75 million people have voted for Biden and 71 million for Trump. Americans are entitled to know, is this an accurate reflection of the will of the people? Stay with me. I'll come to that in a moment. Did 75 million Americans reject Trump's phenomenal achievements with the economy? I think not.
Okay, so here we are. This is the first point. So he's harping back to this idea that for some particular reason, he believes that whatever was inherited from President Obama had no influence, no power, no relevance in terms of what was happening to the person that followed Obama. Now, we know, and I'm not going to go through the stats now, but we know that Obama presented Trump with an economy that was in pretty good nick. And the economy in the United States, and probably anywhere else in the world, just hums along. Interestingly enough, the stock market, if you're really interested in what the middle and upper class are doing, the stock market in the United States has increased substantially since Biden has become elected. So what does that mean about the US economy? Well, I think it probably means that people are relieved to get rid of Trump, and they're now delighted to know that the economy will be a little bit steadier, and that Biden is an even-handed individual who will present an economy that is more stable, and his relationships and Biden's relationships with China and other countries is likely to be a little bit firmer and bring about significant change. So the thing is, the thing for me is he focuses back on the economy, and all the stuff he talks about in this are about the future. The past. They're not about the future, and he's just litigating all the crap that was done prior to the election. It is absolutely pathetic.
Coronavirus, Trump had created 7 million new jobs in America. The average unemployment rate was lower than that of any administration in the history of America. African American youth unemployment was at an all-time low. African American poverty had declined to the lowest rate ever recorded. The unemployment rate for women was the lowest in 70 years. But 75 million Americans chose Biden. The same Biden involved in awful scandals associated with his son, the unanswered allegation that his son consulted his father about a planned venture with a Chinese oil company, corroborated by a partner in the deal. But Joe Biden has said he never discussed the international business activities of his son. The full story is completely ignored by mainstream media organisations.
Yeah, let's just highlight why it was ignored, because there was no information to. This is what the Trump campaign and the Trump organisation is all about. They're about concocting stories that have no validity whatsoever. They're about conspiracy theories. They're about this guy who Biden. I've talked about this before, and I'll just do it briefly. But Biden was supposed to travel from Los Angeles to Delaware, some thousands of kilometers, to drop off a laptop to a place, to a dealership, whatever it was, a repair shop, and the guy that ran the repair shop, this is what kills me, is blind. So I don't know how you fix things if you're blind. But however, there has never been, I've never seen an interview with this blind bloke that supposedly had this laptop. And how can a blind person tell what's even on a laptop? I don't know. Maybe he's got a braille screen. Don't know. But the whole thing, as I demonstrated in one of my other videos, where I actually did a copy of, I wrote up an email, which could have come from anywhere, which proved nothing because I did it on Word. And there's been no... So the mainstream media, the journalists will only report those things that they can validate. So unless there's evidence to demonstrate what it is that these people are saying, like Allan Jones, then the mainstream media rightfully won't report it, because that's what mainstream media is about. It's about gathering information, getting it validated, getting people's sources to verify what it is that they're wanting to know, and then once they've got enough sources that will verify it, then they publish it. If there aren't any sources that can verify this crap apart from Giuliani, then of course it's not going to go anywhere. It just makes sense. I don't know where in the hell they're coming from and why they think that because some conspiracy theorists developed this version of events that somehow it has a reality. That's crazy stuff, and it's not true. But people like Allan Jones, the moron of Sky News, decides that this somehow becomes relevant without he himself having any information to support this. But what they require is they want something that supports their version of reality. They want to believe that Biden and his son were crooks. They want to believe that somehow the Biden crime family, as they start calling them, and I can't get that. There is no person on this planet who is probably more involved in corruption, probably, and the evidence will become available after inauguration. But I have no doubt that somewhere along the line, Trump's going to find himself in heaps of legal trouble. And when that happens, the shit is going to hit the fan, because there'll be a whole host of people who'll be advocating that also is a conspiracy theory. The difference will be that there will be data, there will be sources, there will be information that will validate what it is that whatever the allegations may be, and that will be because it will be a judicial system taking part in this process who will eventually determine whether or not there's some truth in what is being presented. That's the way it should be, not just rogue commentators like Allan Jones talking about stuff that they know nothing about really, but does fit with their version of reality and their version of how things should be according to Allan Jones, But this man is befuddled because his prediction about this landslide election, which was going to happen, just didn't happen. So here we are, talking about all the crap of the past, because that's all Allan Jones can do.
Biden has denied any connection with senior Communist Party officials over his son's business interests. But the New York Post revealed details of the son's business deals in China after his father introduced his son to senior Communist Party officials. In fact, the son flew with Vice President Biden to China on Air Force Two in December 2013 for an 8-day visit with senior...
I love the picture. What I often do is sometimes I take that picture and I put it into Google Pictures and seek for some sort of understanding about the country. I haven't done that in this case because I couldn't be bothered. But who knows where that picture has come from? So we say that the son flew to China, whatever it was, and and he shows a picture. Like, who knows? He could have been on the plane with his father at any particular time. But there he is with a picture. So therefore, that indicates that he is travelling to wherever Allan Jones says he's travelling to. And, who are we to argue with that? Crazy shit.
Communist Party officials. All this is clear from email records. The Biden camp doesn't deny the authenticity of the emails taken from the hard drive of a computer left at a Delaware computer repair shop. But of course, Biden doesn't have to deny. He's being protected by the media. But in the final debate, Biden denied he had any international...
Can I just say, though, folks, that he's not being protected by the media. That's crap. Believe me, if the media had anything to say about Biden, they would have printed it, because that's what the media does. And the fact that it was the New York Post that printed this shit was because no one else would. And the New York Post, which is owned by Murdoch, this is their last-ditch effort to have a go at Biden. And can we just observe, and it's fair enough to say, that the only thing they had that they believed was relevant was Biden's laptop. For a man that was in politics for 47 years, I can tell you now, they didn't dig out all that much information. But for a man who was in politics for 5 years, Donald Trump, there is heaps of shit about what this guy has done and how he's corrupted the system in order to benefit himself and his family. Heaps of information around all of that. But no one cares about that, because no one cares about that right at the moment, because at the end of the day, after inauguration, the shit's going to come out anyway. So everybody, I guess the media and everybody else is just biding their time, and then suddenly when the legal apparatus kicks into gear, maybe we'll start to see some signs as to really what Trump has been up to. And remember that according to the Justice Department, you cannot prosecute a sitting president. So that's all in abeyance. When he's no longer a sitting president, let's see what happens then, Mr. Jones.
Involving his family, who is telling lies. Then there's the business about Ukraine. His son, who doesn't speak Ukrainian, knows nothing about energy, was thrown out of the army with a drug problem, but gets $50,000 a month with a Ukrainian company which is being investigated for corruption. The father visits the Ukraine, and next thing we know, the Ukrainian prosecutor is gone. Aren't we allowed to say that when Biden was vice president to Obama, he pushed for the sacking of the Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin by threatening to pull...
Here we go again. This is just so distressing. It's... the story is that Biden pushed for the sacking of that particular prosecutor because he was corrupt. It has nothing to do with his son. It was just that he was corrupt. And in order for that country to become the democracy it needed to be after leaving the USSR, they needed, for security reasons, they're so close to Russia, for security reasons they needed to get rid of the top prosecutor in Ukraine. So they did. They did. And they made a deal. And they negotiated it. And it was Biden who did all that. But that had nothing to do with his son. To conflate the two is just wrong. And it just goes to show what a strange individual Allan Jones is. He bewilders me that he can present as an intelligent human being, and I'm sure he is. I don't have that issue with him. But he also, on the other hand, presents as an idiot. And you kind of got to wonder, what is Allan's agenda here? Right? I think it's about kicking off his Facebook page and doing all the other things he talked about at the beginning in order to make himself so important. It's crazy. But that's who he is. Crazy.
$1 billion in loan guarantees. Imagine if this was Trump. None of these issues raised by the media with Biden. None of them denied by Biden. Biden doesn't have to worry about denying or answering. He's being protected by...
And that's the point. It's not being protected by the bloody media, you idiot. He simply does... If someone makes an accusation against me and I know that it's untrue, I would be better off not to say anything, because it will eventually go away. If there's truth in things, they metastasize. They become bigger. People add information and upon information upon information, and eventually it's really difficult to escape from all of that, right? But if the allegations are not true, it is within your right. He hasn't pleaded the fifth. He hasn't said if I say anything I'm going to get into trouble. He just chose not to say anything. There is nothing wrong with that. To draw a conclusion from that he's hiding something because he chooses not to say anything is just stupid. And it just goes to validate my view that this is stupid.
Mainstream and social and the big tech giants. No one fact-checked Biden when in the final debate he claimed that the former New York Mayor Giuliani was, quote, being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that is Russian. Everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States, unquote. But if Trump can't prove election chicanery, then he is discredited. Biden can't prove the Russian allegations, but the media let them run.
Biden doesn't have to prove that. Oh God, he's frustrating, is he not? Because Biden doesn't have to prove that. The intelligence services, 17 of them did. Right? The Mueller report did. Proves that they were interfering in the campaign to benefit Trump. That was proved. Biden didn't have to do anything. You're an idiot, Allan, because Biden didn't have to do a thing. Not a thing. So why make it about Biden when in actual fact it's about the intelligence services that did say that Putin and others were interfering in the election?
In an excellent piece 2 weeks ago, Chris Mitchell in the Australian newspaper quoted Glenn Greenwald, who won a Pulitzer Prize in 2014, writing, and I quote, "Is there a single journalist willing to say with a straight face that they believe the emails relating to the Bidens are either fabricated or otherwise altered, but the Bidens just aren't saying so?" He says, "There has to be some limit to your willingness to go into bat for them," unquote. As Chris Mitchell, former distinguished editor of many News Limited mastheads, wrote, Greenwald sticks with the facts. Well, argues Greenwald, I quote, "The broad outlines of this story have been known. Hunter Biden was paid a very large monthly sum by Burisma, at the same time that his father was quite active in using the force of the US government to influence Ukraine's internal affairs."
No one denies that Hunter Biden was paid a lot of money. No one denies that Hunter Biden probably didn't have the expertise to do that job. No one denies that probably they put him in that position so that he could influence his father. The question is whether he did or not. And I think the answer is a categorical no. He didn't. Right? Biden probably, inappropriately, I agree. So I don't have an issue that Hunter Biden made a mistake, that his father should have told him not to do it, but Joe Biden has told people that he did not speak to his son about any of the issues while he was working for Burisma, and that Biden wasn't able to influence, or didn't even try to influence, and was not going to influence any decisions that his father made. So it's a non-story. It shouldn't have been done. Get all of that, but friggin' get over it, Allan. You're a bigger man than that.
Unquote. Mitchell writes that Greenwald was, quote, scathing of Facebook and Twitter for blocking the sharing of the Post's revelations. He wrote, "Imagine if these two giants united with Google to declare henceforth we will ban all content that's critical of President Trump and or the Republican Party, but will actively promote criticism of Joe Biden and the Democrats," unquote. Well, of course, the opposite's happened. Not a criticism of Biden, but open slather on Trump. As Chris Mitchell wrote, free speech cannot just be for people you agree with. We now have fact-checking by Facebook. Writes Greenwald, what makes Mark Zuckerberg...
Okay, so they're saying that because the media didn't take their version of events, even though there wasn't any information to justify that, that now means that free speech has been stifled. So if there's not enough information to support your argument, and other people aren't supporting your argument, namely the media, then clearly the media is simply not doing their job. So it'd be like saying we should start supporting all the QAnon theories, even though they're foundless, but media should go out and support them or talk about them, right, in a positive way. So it's not about just talking about things generally. It's about supporting those ideas. So when people stop supporting our ideas, then that is, according to people like Allan Jones, that they're wrong. They're not, that free speech has been stifled. No, Allan Jones, here you are on Sky News telling us that you've got 1 million people on Facebook that are saying that the sun shines out of your ass. And as a result of that, free speech has been stifled. And here he is about to talk about Facebook. Now, the interesting thing about Facebook and Twitter is that Facebook has decided that they will do the fact checking. So they're not saying sometimes that the stupid things that Trump says are wrong. They're just putting a statement in there saying that the issue is disputed. So, but I think that's reasonable, is it not? That at least Facebook is at least taking some responsibility for the crap that's posted on their Facebook pages. And there was an interesting article I read somewhere that said that when Trump leaves office, Facebook will take a harder stance against some of the stuff that he posts. So they've been lenient on him because he is the president, but they will get tougher with him once he leaves. And oh boy, am I looking forward to that.
Company competent to fact check the work of other journalists. Why did Facebook block none of the endless orgy of Russiagate conspiracy? Remember, all to damage Donald Trump. Make no mistake, everything that Trump says about fake news media is true. Again, Chris Mitchell, I quote, why do journalists of the left who are happy to publish unsourced and unverified allegations that Trump was in league with the Russians now want infinite checking of allegations damaging to Biden? And then, as Corey Bernardi indicated last night, people as old as 100...
I haven't seen... Now, I don't know where this shit comes from, but clearly I watch different media than they do. Because I generally watch middle-of-the-road, left-wing media, ABC. Don't watch Channel 9, Channel 7, because I can't bear the ads. But I watch Four Corners, I watch Q&A. But where does this stuff come from that for some reason they're not reporting this stuff? Because, and I'll just come back to it, the only reason why the stuff is not being reported is because it lacks facts. That's it. We live, I don't know whether Kellyanne Conway, right at the beginning of the campaign said that there are alternate facts. I think people like Allan Jones and Sky News are frankly only interested in alternate facts. They're not interested in what are the real facts. And here they are berating the media because they're only prepared to report the actual facts as they're happening. Just crazy.
20 years of age had cast ballots in the 2020 election. When critics assert that Biden's comeback was driven by the late counting of hundreds of thousands...
I love that. So I love the bit that he presents this page. Who knows where that page has come from? I've got no freaking idea. But he presents this page of about 10, 15 names of people that were born in 1990. Okay, clearly those people are dead or very old. So where does that come from? And if it only is 10 people and someone has fraudulently put them in there to vote, why does he think that they're voting? How does he know whether those people are voting Democrat or Republican? And if there's only that many people, what's the issue here? Because those number of people, or a small number of people, are not going to determine how this election goes anyway. You'd have to look at fraudulent behaviour that involved hundreds of thousands of people in order for there to be a change in the election result. And we know that that isn't the case. It's not possible. So all the court cases and everything else that's happening in the US are likely to come to a pathetic end for the Republican Party and they're going to look really, really stupid. So why would you bother supporting them? Because at the end of the day, people are still, and I don't know why this is the case, drives me crazy, people are still fearful of Donald Trump. It is Trump's party, and the Republicans, to be fair, need to find a way to get it back to what they want. There's lots of Republicans that are anti-Trump. There are people that still believe in conservative principles, and they want those enacted, but that would never happen under Trump. And they feel betrayed, and they want their party back, which is fair enough. I understand that. But why would you continue to want to give in to this guy if at the end of the day he's just going to bastardise everything that you stand for? I don't understand that.
Mail-in votes, some in quote-unquote clusters, all for Biden, and not a single vote for Trump, and mostly in key swing states. The Biden apologists everywhere say, where's the evidence? When these mail-in votes transform the results. I would say the evidence.
Where's Alan? Where's your friggin' evidence, you jerk? Where's your evidence to prove any of that? That's just a wild allegation. You presented a shot of 15 voters, right? Where's your evidence to justify what it is? So when he talks about fake media, what he doesn't understand is that he is exemplifying the very fakeness of media that he's criticising others for, right? Now, how is that good journalism, and how is that good, even if it's an opinion piece? You know, at least opinion writers should have some principles about how they present their information, whereas this man has no principles whatsoever. And I just want to highlight the fact, and we'll finish this shortly, but the fact that he started off by going back over information that is gone. Right? Just forget it. It's regardless of true or not. Anyway, it's no longer relevant. So now he's trying to focus on this notion that the election has been stolen, something that Trump set up 5 years ago, when he was asked in a debate by Chris Wallace as to whether he would concede an election. And he basically said, no, I won't. So, and Hillary, to her credit, called him out on it. And so people like Allan Jones have been set up. I can't believe that people like Jones and others are so stupid that they would believe or be indoctrinated into this certain set of beliefs that Trump has been working on and developing for years. I think I don't know whether he just does it instinctively so it looks smart at the end of the day. I just think it's who he is. I don't think there's anything particularly clever about Donald Trump. I think this is the way that he is. You know? It's pathetic.
It's common sense. Is it true that on the morning after voting day, that's a week ago, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., 140,000 votes appeared in Wisconsin for Biden. 3 a.m. to 4:30 a.m., 200,000 votes found in Michigan for Biden. 3:30 a.m. to 5 a.m., 1 million votes in Pennsylvania for Biden. Aren't American votes?
You're an idiot, Alan. Of course they found them. Biden had been telling people, the Democrats in particular, to vote by mail. Now, Allan Jones will never watch this video. Thank God for that, right? But he encouraged people to vote by mail. The mail-in voting happened after the on-day election voting happened. So those that voted on the day, their votes were counted first. The mail-in votings were counted second. They were predominantly Democrats because Biden told them to vote by mail. And because of coronavirus, most sensible people thought it would be safer to vote by mail. You're an idiot, Jones. Any clown could understand the logic in any of that, but not you. No. You're wondering about how come all these Democratic votes happened after the first set of votes were delivered, which looked like Trump might have won. Well, that's because most of the Democratic votes came in by mail. It is that simple. And if you can't understand that, you're a bigger jerk than you act as if you are. It's crazy crap. And, it's irritating to know that a man like this has so much influence and power, yet is making such stupid and inane comments that the most logical individual could see.
Is entitled to an explanation? Then consider this. Are we now seriously meant to believe that the Biden, who less than a week ago referred to half of America as chumps and ugly people, is the same Joe Biden who refused to denounce Antifa? The same Joe Biden refused to denounce the Antifa.
Incidentally, I have no idea where that comment came from. I can't verify it myself. I doubt whether he said it, but I don't know. So I'm just going to let that one go. Alan, you can have that. I don't know because I can't. I have no information regarding that comment at all. But it's no different from whatever Trump saying that coloured people come from shithole countries. Or that troops were stupid if you fought for the military. Or John McCain should never have been captured. He doesn't like people that get captured. Maybe he doesn't like people that lose either. Troops were losers. Trump, you're a loser now. Stiff bickies, buddy.
And Black Lives Matter rioters, looters and arsonists who actually passed, Biden did, Antifa off as just an idea. Is this Biden?
Oh, here we go. Here we go. So this is him going back and talking about stuff that has kind of gone. Black Lives Matter is still a relevant issue in the United States. African Americans did vote overwhelmingly for Trump, for Biden rather. So that tells us something, I guess. But here he is trying to reinvestigate something that is already gone. There's no need to worry about this anymore, Alan. The Antifa stuff is gone. The right wing and the way they were expected to respond after this election chose not to, and thank God for that. Really appreciate that. Will there be further riots in the United States as a result of African Americans being shot by white police? Yeah, I reckon there will be. But do they now have a man who could best cope with that? Yes, they do.
Quote, the unifier in chief, as a front page headline today suggests. Is this the same Joe Biden who, in a case of reverse extortion, admitted by him on video, threatened to withhold a $1 billion loan guarantee to Ukraine unless they fired the prosecutor and took the heat off his son in their investigation of Burisma?
They didn't fire him to take the heat off his son. They fired him because he was corrupt. I just went over this. Alan, weren't you listening to me, you moron? Seriously, you're a crazy man. And you just don't get it. He doesn't get anything.
The same Joe Biden featured in recent weeks on both his son's laptop and revealed in Tony Bobulinski's separate trove of emails, texts and audio files as the big guy of a multi-million-dollar shakedown. Or are we talking about a different Joe Biden? It's extraordinary to believe that for a bloke who showed during the campaign that sometimes he didn't know where he was or against whom he was competing, he's gained 75 million votes. When everywhere else in the Senate, the House of Representatives, and in the governorships of the 50 states, Trump and his team prevailed. Perhaps only history will record how someone like Joe Biden, almost bottom of his class at law school, found cheating in his exams, in a previous attempt at the presidency, was found... Now
that's where I think Allan Jones, I'm going to leave Alan at that, but I think that's where he's gone too far. There's no evidence of any of that. He probably may not have been the brightest person in his class, but who cares? I don't think you were probably the brightest person in your class, Alan, even though you did go to a private school and had the best education that anybody could have. But it doesn't mean that he's stupid. What was the last bit he was talking about? About the fact that Biden, it's just crazy. So, and he just cannot accept, as you know, Paul Murray and others on the news network cannot accept that Biden has won. And it is a good thing for the world. And it's about time some of these people just found the space just to move on with their lives. So I want to thank those of you. And, just check to see if this has happened on Twitch. It's TTM69 is the Twitch account. So if you want to go to TTM for Mary, so that's Things That Matter 69, please do so. And please, if you wouldn't mind, if you could remember to subscribe. And if you really like the video, just ring the bell and keep up to date on all of the stuff. Avery will be joining me at some point to talk about some further details. And if you want to catch up more about us, you can look at us on the Child Protection Party Facebook page. So I just want to say thanks, everybody. Thanks for being with me. And we look forward to catching you next time. Take care, look after yourself, and be safe.